Alright guys, let's continue our pursuit of knowledge. We're taking on number 20 now. If we look at number 20, it says, from the window in my house, 25 feet high, I see a tree across the street. From the window, the angle of depression of the base of the tree is 21 degrees and the angle of elevation to the top of the tree is 31 degrees. Find the height of the tree to the nearest foot. So, what you want to do here is you want to realize what kind of question this is. I think the hardest aspect of this is to draw the picture. Once you get the picture down, you're like, oh, I get it. This is not too difficult. So here you are. You're looking out the window. Okay, here you are looking out the window. And when you look out the window, you see off to the distance, you see this tree. Here's my tree. I'm amazing at drawing, I know. And what you need to realize is that usually when they talk about angle of elevation, and when they talk about that's terrible, angle of depression, let's say it's there, they usually mean that the angle of elevation and angle of depression are the same thing. Now in this particular problem, you can see the way I drew it, that it's not. Whenever you get a different angle of depression and different angle of elevation, it tends to resemble this picture. I'm not saying that it's always going to be this picture, so don't just assume, oh, Mr. Anderson said it's always going to be this picture, and assume every time they're different you're going to just straight up draw this. But usually it does tend to be this. So in lieu of that, we will proceed with the question. It says the angle of elevation is 31 degrees, so the angle of elevation right here, 31 degrees, and the angle of depression down here is 21. Boom. All right. Then it says that it also says that you are 25 feet high. So notice that if you're 25 feet high here, this portion of the tree is 25 feet. It also asks for you to find the entire height. Okay, so we're looking for all of this, not just this piece here. So don't put 25. All right, so what I'm going to do here is, clearly to finish this problem, I just need to figure out this value here. And what I would encourage you to do, what I would implore you to do, is when you see questions like this, write out when you have X or you have an unknown, perhaps take note of the variable I used. I used Y here as opposed to traditionally X because it's a vertical. So sometimes it makes sense to call things a certain way, and it's particularly in these questions that you have horizontal and vertical values. If you get in the habit of always calling a horizontal value X and a vertical value Y, it helps to clarify things, helps to make things a little clearer, things a little less opaque. All right, so from here, you look at it and you're like, whoop-de-doo. I can't do anything with this triangle right here. I don't know what to do. And that's okay, because what you can do, and what you do know you can solve for, is definitely can find this value. And what I would encourage you to do, this is very useful in standardized tests like the SAT. Whenever you see something that you cannot solve, label it. I'm going to call this value X. And go after that value first. If you can find this value, notice if I can find this value, then I can find this value because I have an angle, a side, and that allows me to find the other side of a right triangle. So we're going to go through, we're going to first start here. We know that if we have opposite and adjacent, we can say tan 21 is equal to opposite over adjacent. And we're going to solve. Now again, remember when we have this situation, we can always switch these two, so I'm going to go ahead and switch it. Do the old tan switcheroo. Actually, it's not just tan, it's all trig functions. Actually, it's not just trig functions, it's all numbers. And then I solve this. So, go into the calc, type in clear, type in what it's given, 25 divided by tan, I forgot, 21. And it gives me 65.12 or 13 if I round. So this is equal to 65.13. Okay, now that I have this value here, I know in this picture here, and it's going to get kind of messy here, 65.113. And with that, I can now find this. So I go opposite over adjacent. So I can say tan 31 equals y over 65.13. And we solve. And again, because notice the difference between these two problems. Here, y is on the numerator, not the denominator. So when I solve this, I'm going to multiply both sides by 65.13. Okay, so you can't just switch them all the time. You just look at the situation and apply accordingly. So that will cancel this out. That was the whole point. Also, you always want to try to get rid of the fraction as soon as possible. And we solve. So 65.13 times tan 31. And you get 39.13. And you feel good about yourself, and you're happy. And you're like, cool, I'm done. Move on to the next problem because 39 is one of the answer choices. Except, if you did that, you would have missed the question because the question is asking you to solve not for y, but for h. Not y, h. H being the entire height. This entire height. So be aware of this. Also, again, students who are going to take the SAT or the ACT in the coming months, this is a very common way they get you. Okay, you got to make sure you're answering what the question is specifically asking me for. So if this part here is 39.13, this is 25, all I have to do is add them up, take the parts, add them together, 0, 0, and solve. So I end up getting 3, 1, 14, carry the 1, 64.13. And if I look at my answer choices, I think B makes the most sense. So make sure that you are always answering your question. I would encourage you, if you are taking the final, do me a favor, if you're taking the final, make sure always to check, reread the question, every question, and see that you are answering what the question is asking you for. Alright, hopefully that's clear. This is definitely a doozy of a problem, so feel free to always watch the video over again. That's why they're there for you. And I will see you on the next problem.